Ahoy there, mates. Welcome to a very special episode of So to Speak tonight. We got a battle of the bands on our hands.
Hey, bracket tournaments, my favorite.
Unintentional rhyming.
Yeah,
Hey.
exactly. Hey, thank you, yeah. I'm Evan Mead.
I'm Lyle Groniger.
Oh, okay.
I'm Josh Weinberg on a delay.
I was like, oh, you take it, but okay. And I'm Cody McDonald. We're all back. The family is back together. What a nice reunion.
Oh, it's been a while since we've had all four soda speakers in the same episode.
And it happens to be music. Go figure.
How about it? It's like it's an
We
albums
can't escape
episode
it.
all over again. So yeah, we have 32 bands from 4 separate genres and a bunch of criteria. I got 2 bowls here, and we're going to do a little bracket tournament. And we're not going to base the bands entirely on our personal opinions. We have one piece of criteria for each match that kind of determines which band is better, objectively. So, yeah, let's get started. Is everyone ready?
Hell yeah.
I am.
Okay. We got the Sex Pistols. Now we're off with a bang. Sex Pistols versus Linkin Park.
Oh.
That definitely is a choice.
Interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it a strong sir? Okay.
Kind of unfair, though, when you really think about it.
Oh, yeah.
It really is.
Okay, and the category is Best Live Shows.
Oh,
Well,
I
that
defer,
depends.
I defer to you guys because you know how I am with live shows.
I'm gonna say, well, the Sex Pistols are raucous, but not very trained. I'll say that. Like Linkin Park, you could.
It
tell
works
there
for their style of punk for sure. Like
Yeah.
looking at a lot of the live footage that you'll see on YouTube, because again, the Sex Pistols were a group that realistically only had one record.
Yeah.
They didn't exist for that long, but they were still pretty influential at the time. Although granted, a lot of the UK punk scene was influenced and formed from seeing one particular Ramones show, which we'll get to later on.
Yeah, that'll
But
come up.
you can definitely see that there's that energy there, but it's not harnessed as well as it could be.
Whereas you have Linkin Park, who are like professional musicians touring around the world for like well over 2 decades, and each of their shows got more elaborate. I've seen Linkin Park live actually, and like all the sets and everything, all the like the hydraulic drum set that comes up when they start on certain
yeah.
shows. So yeah, there's
That
definitely
sounds
like
cool.
there's definitely a bit of an imbalance here because you have a small band that kind of erupted and then fizzled out, and then you have a band that grew as their audience grew. So I guess when it comes to live shows, I mean, Sex Pistols definitely had some memorable shit. Like when during the Queen's like inauguration or something, I forget, it was an event.
The
from
Silver
royalty.
Jubilee, I think it was.
The Jubilee, yes, and they rented a boat and went outside the event and played punk music.
They went
Speakers
on
blowing,
the Thames River and basically just played a bunch of stuff.
and interrupted the entire event just to take the piss out of them. I don't know, there's stuff like that where it's like, yeah, there may not be as many shows, but some of the shows there are definitely memorable. I'm kind of leaning more towards Linkin Park because they're, it's not like they accidentally unplug themselves while they play, so there is that.
God, now I'm thinking of Linkin Park doing a hoedown.
I wish it could.
The thing with Linkin Park too is because of their different eras, you had a lot more of the focus on the guitar and even the turntable and the sort of effects and stuff in the beginning. But as they got more and more towards the middle of their sound, which by Minutes to Midnight was more, radio rock and alternative and stuff like that, it did sort of fade out a little bit. But in the later era of their career, it did kind of come back. But then by then it was skewing more towards pop by the end of it. So they've had different eras, but I think for a live show, it's definitely a good mix of stuff in there.
So who are we gonna decide, gentlemen?
Well, I'm only familiar with Linkin Park live because a buddy of mine way back in the day had Linkin Park's Live in Texas on DVD.
Yeah,
And
that's a good one. That and the Road to Revolution live records are both solid.
Yeah, like the Live in Texas was just mainly like everything from their hybrid theory and I I always mispronounce this.
Meteora.
Meteora. I always want to say Metatoria. Which is basically like the best of Linkin Park, arguably. And from the stuff I remembered off of that live concert, it was pretty good. Like, their energy is really alive, and they always like to try to have the crowd participate in all like the ballads and the songs. Like, so I just don't know much about the Sex Pistols live, to be honest. That I'm kind of just going off by like knowledge, I guess.
Okay, so Cody votes Linkin Park. What about you, Evan? Which one would you vote for?
Well, I'm not. Well, the thing is, I've never seen the Sex Pistols live on video or otherwise, but I have seen Linkin Park live, so it's kind of like they're the winner by default. But then again, you did take me to see Sid Nancy. That's the one, yeah. So I have an idea of what they were like. So, and honestly, like, I'd imagine there's like a genre difference too, which we're already aware of. So
they're like decades apart too. So
yeah.
Back then,
well, I guess like Linkin Park, just because they have the unfair advantage of like the technology and the stage presence.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the musicality. Yeah.
Yes.
It'd be wild to see Sex Pistols live. I really wish I had the chance, but
It would
I
be.
do remember. I saw this one video, where they regrouped, like the whole band regrouped, and they had like a reunion tour. And Johnny Ron's just standing there. He's like, "Hello!" And a bottle flies from the audience and hits him right in the forehead. And everyone found the guy and threw him out. While Johnny's like, "What a fucking coward!" and all that. And it's just, it's crazy. But yeah, I guess Linkin Park would have like the stronger set. So I'll give it to them.
And I think a lot of it is because just like Chester, regardless of, you know, the fact that maybe over the years, you know, vocal changes and obviously you have to tune stuff down as, you know, vocal cords weaken. He was a powerhouse live.
Oh, yeah.
And especially in the early years, like he was really pushing his voice to the limit. But I think it really also filled out over time, and that's why there was a lot more depth to it in the later records, and certainly, you know, live, depending on the era you went to see them in. I mean, obviously in the nu metal years, and that's another thing, you know, they came around at the tail end of nu metal essentially. I mean, we had bands like, you know, you had Korn and you had Slipknot, who we'll get to later on, that were more on definitely on the more aggressive side, but also the more darker in terms of song lyrics and also in terms of like how they portray themselves on stage. Linkin Park was by comparison a little more on the light side, but they still had those darker moments. But I think they were able to somehow balance that out in a way that works really well, especially for people that may not necessarily get into heavy music that way. And as you guys have also said, it's kind of unfair to, you know, for a band that had been around for like several decades at this point compared to Sex Pistols that only really had a couple years, and even if they've reunited in like the 90s or 2000s or what have you, it's not quite the same comparison. But I'd still give it to Linkin Park just because it would be one I'd be more likely to see if they would be active anymore, and that's kind of up in the air as of now.
Unanimous.
Ta-da!
Mutual agreement. Sex Pistols may not have won anything.
Well, that
They
being
still made
said,
it to
before
this
you do
list.
go to the next one, I would have been really
Oh, yeah.
interesting to see an
Alright,
alternate
next
universe
up,
where the
round
Sex
2,
Pistols
we have
were still together
Led Zeppelin
after all this time.
and Green Day.
Oh.
You can tell there's different types of eras to this one. Alright. Oh, this one's interesting. Which band has the most streamed song on Spotify?
I'll look that up right now.
That could be a lot closer than we think, realistically, because like both bands have songs that not only are beloved, but a lot of people, probably in the hundreds of millions of streams for
Okay,
both.
so Basket Case
I would-
has 700 million, and Led
700 million.
Zeppelin.
Okay, can Led
And
Zeppelin
wait.
cut?
And wait, Stairway to Heaven has 700 million as well. Hang on, I just want to be accurate
need the
with
exact figures
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
come
the
on.
exact figures.
Okay.
Stairway to Heaven beats them.
Oh,
That,
man,
that
that's-
makes so much sense.
No Basket Case. Denied.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Like you are 10 times more likely to hear Stairway to
700
Heaven.
748,000 and 757,000. Holy shit, that's neck and necking. But it's Stairway to
Wow.
Heaven.
Million.
That's pretty
Oh, million.
interesting.
Million, sorry. I meant to say 700 million. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, for good
1
reason. I
million
mean, both are
streams.
iconic songs, but like most people, even if they're not into Zeppelin, if they hear the beginning guitar notes on the guitar, they'll probably be able to put two and two together pretty quick.
Gotta give it to Green Day for at least putting up a decent battle this time around, though. I mean, I know Spotify isn't the end-all be-all of popularity or anything, but it's an interesting...
Well, until
player
Apple
metric.
Music puts out like publicly viewable numbers of stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad. 2 punk bands down, and only 6 left.
Well, I hope they had the time of their lives.
Do you have the tap? Nope.
No.
Alright. I hope your willies are chilly, because next up is Red Hot Chili Peppers versus the Tragically Hip.
Oh.
Oh, Lord.
And the category...
Some heads might roll.
Yeah. Yeah. Longest discography.
Chili
I
Peppers.
think the Tragically Hip might actually have this one.
Someone
Oh,
has
seriously?
submitted this.
Yeah, Chili Peppers have been around since the 80s.
They
But
have.
Technically, the
So-
Tragically Hip have as well.
Yeah.
And also,
Granted,
here's
they're
what
not active anymore, but
here's what also you
So
have.
we're,
Yeah, no,
are we counting?
that's-
Are we counting like EPs and studio albums and live
I
albums?
think we should just count studio albums
Let's just
for
count
this.
studio albums, because we're not going to
Okay.
have
So
compilations and all
then,
that.
yeah, the Chili Peppers definitely win this one, and also because it's another
Hold
unfair
on,
advantage
let me just
because the Tragically Hip is currently inactive. The Chili Peppers are still going, like as far as I'm
Yeah.
aware.
Okay, so Red Hot Chili Peppers have,
Fortune
I
will not
believe,
favor
13
everyone.
albums as of this year. 13 studio
Yeah.
albums. In fact, they put out 2 this year.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they did.
And
Chili
then
Peppers put out 2 this year.
Tragically Hip have also put out 13 studio albums.
Are you serious?
Oh
Sorry,
my
I'm going- no,
god.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to give it the point to Chili Peppers. I forgot I included their self-titled EP from '87. So Tragically Hip technically only have 12 studio albums.
Ah.
But if you go to Wikipedia, their final album, Man Machine Poem, is technically their 13th.
Okay,
According
so
to- I guess
are
it counts
Are
the
they
EP.
tied or what? Because if they're tied, then we just call it a draw, and then we'll draw another. So it's up to you guys.
I would say give it to Chili Peppers.
Yeah, I agree.
Very well.
Yeah.
Technically, I would buy one record.
Just by one, yeah.
Well, so next round, we have Motorhead versus Slipknot.
Oh.
This will be interesting.
Metalheads
Alright.
galore.
And the category is Best Vocalist.
Corey-
in some ways, it's almost unfair to compare.
Corey Taylor
It's like-
for the win.
Who would win in
Corey
a singing
Taylor.
match?
Corey
Lemmy
Taylor.
or God? Trick question. Lemmy is
Yeah.
God.
Airheads. Yeah, I mean between Stone Sour and Slipknot, Corey Taylor can go from melodic to heavy. Like
Yeah.
I've said it before. How does he go from going I'm looking at you through the glass to I did my time and I want out.
I'm a worm before I am a man.
Yeah.
A creature, but yeah.
No,
That's the thing, Corey Taylor has that two-way ability to his vocals that
Kinda
he's been
like,
able to do it for so long. At this
kinda
point,
like
Slipknot's
Chester
been a band
Bennington.
for over 25 years.
Yeah, good
and
comparison.
They've still got it. Motorhead, unfortunately, has been inactive since 2015 when Lemmy passed, and at this point, most like the classic lineup of Motorhead that did from like Overkill through to Ace of Spades, Iron Fist, like they're all gone now.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that Lemmy, hasn't become a master not only with the bass, but like when you talk about mixing the blues and heavy metal and just pure rock bombast, I think Lemmy did it like few others ever could.
If this was a category for Best Frontman, Lemmy would have a bit more of a
Absolutely.
Oh, 100%.
iconic status.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But to base it entirely, it's kind of like Geddy Lee or somebody. It's like to base it on one aspect that's maybe not as strong as their other aspect. It's like you kind of have to give it to the other team sometimes.
Mhm.
It's too bad because otherwise, like I do like Lemmy a lot, especially as like a front man and an icon for rock. But vocally, I just feel like he's very like he has a good grumble to his voice,
Yeah.
but not a ton of range. per
I won't
se.
disagree that it is very samey, but I think that's part of what makes Motorhead's appeal is you know what you're getting into when you listen to a Motorhead record.
That's true. He delivers. It's just I think Corey has a better range. So I
He's
guess
got
it's
more
a-
presence too.
What do you think, Evan?
Exactly.
See, I always, yeah, I'm gonna say Corey from Slipknot because, yeah, like, have you heard the guy who sings for Motorhead?
Like, listen to All Hope Is Gone and a song like Snuff, and you can hear the stone sourness of Corey's voice sort of creeping into Slipknot a little bit, but in the way that song builds up to the final bit. But then, you know, on the same record, you'll hear a track like Sulfur, or, of course, Psychosocial, where it's the complete opposite end. Or even on the self-titled debut, you've got, like, Wait and Bleed and Surfacing and Sick.
Oh, yeah, Wait and Bleed is a good one.
Okay, so we're ready for the next one?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so continuing on with this metal trend that we've been having for a little while, we have Black Sabbath versus Alice in Chains.
Ooh.
Okay.
We got the Doom and the grimy Doom.
Doom and the gloom and the grudge and the sludge.
Well, yeah, Doom and Gloom, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
All right, what is it?
So the category is Best Guitarist / Guitarists.
Oh.
Fuck.
It's the guy that
Jerry
basically
versus
invented heavy metal versus Jerry Cantrell. There's no
yeah.
contest here.
Jerry Cantrell. Yeah, Zach Wilde.
Well, not
No,
just
Zach Wilde was only with Ozzy solo work. This is strictly Black Sabbath as a whole.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean it's.
Look, Cody, have you listened to the main riff of Iron Man lately?
Yeah, never mind. Why am I thinking about this too hard? It's Black Sabbath.
Or the title track on the self-titled debut from Black Sabbath. Do, do, do. Like, that is early metal. That is the progenitus. That's the genesis of doom metal, of stoner metal. Any sort of dark form of heavy music owes a huge debt to Black Sabbath, and namely to the left hand of Tony Iommi.
Yeah, I gotta say, there's so many iconic riffs from Sabbath, it's almost hard to choose. But
And not even just in the Ozzy era itself. Heaven and Hell, and of course the Mob Rules. Like, the Dio era
Yeah,
also
Mob
has some
Rules.
great moments to it.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But,
And even the Tony Martin era too, even though people forget about the Tony Martin era because it's not on streaming. And the brief time where Ian Gillan from Deep Purple was the vocalist for Black Sabbath.
Ooh, how long did that go on for?
I think Ian Gillan was only on the Born Again record,
Mm.
and maybe a little bit, or maybe, and there was that whole weird period as an aside when like it was sort of marketed as like Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi, the whole Seventh Star era in the late '80s. That was a thing, but regardless, I still love a lot of Jerry Cantrell's like riff work and solo work. Facelift, and I re-listened to a lot of Dirt in the last couple of days. I think that's Alice in Chains' best record just because it's the most darkest. Like, you know, you got Them Bones, Damn That River, Rain When I Die, Down in a Hole,
Rooster,
you know, Angry
Godsmack.
Chair, Wood.
Yeah, so many. Angry Chair. Oh my god.
And I mean, granted, even on we talked about No Excuses when you talked about Jar of Flies, but just the way that on a relatively, you know, acoustic-y ballad, he was still able to have a nice jam and solo in there. And, you know, even on the Tripod album, like Grind or Heaven Beside You, I will give Jerry this. He's still looking for ways to, you know, work on his tone. Even in the William Duvall years, he still got it. I just think it's another unfair comparison because you can't compete with someone that literally started a genre.
And
with the way
also,
they played.
and also Kevin Smith's favorite song, "Got Me Wrong," right?
Ah, nice.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how like technically complex it all is. If you really want to go.
Oh, and how can I
rabbit
forget
hole.
the groove of Man in the Box? Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, I mean, Alice in Chains has its dudes. I really like their guitar work. It's hard for me to pick, actually. What are you guys picking?
I'd have to go with Sabbath.
I'm going with Tony Iommi.
Probably Sabbath.
I was gonna pitch in for.
Oh,
Alice.
and Paranoid and War Pigs.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, there's so
Planet
much
Caravan.
iconicness. Yeah.
Yeah, like
there really is.
you could even like throw a dart and you'll at a dartboard and you'll probably hit an important guitar riff from the Ozzy era of Black Sabbath, the first Ozzy era.
Yeah, I was thinking of Zach Wilde because I always jump to Ozzy when it comes to Sabbath, and my wires get crossed.
And as an aside, if any of you guys want to check out, it's sort of a reunion of the Dio era in a way. It was called Heaven and Hell. They put out one record in I think 2009 called The Devil You Know. Actually, really good.
Yeah, I was a fan of Holy Diver and Rainbow in the Dark.
Rest in peace, Dio.
Rest in peace, Dio.
But yeah, I think it's pretty unanimous that Tony's got this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, next one on the list. Now we're into alternative mode. We got two really solid 90s bands, Sublime
Ooh.
and Radiohead.
Oh.
Depends what the criteria is.
Well, that's the thing. This criteria is extraordinarily biased because it is, out of the two bands, which one is our favorite?
You know what it is
I'm
biased,
probably
and
gonna
some
sit-
people
I'm
might
just
not
gonna
like
sit-
me for this.
I'm going to sit this out altogether because I'm not a diehard fan of either of these guys. But I know of them. I'm just like, and I've heard at least a couple of their songs. But yeah, you guys can go nuts over this one.
Okay, having fun. So how do you feel?
I 100% have to go with Radiohead. I mean, one of my favorite albums, and I'm probably going to talk about it on the next album, is In Rainbows. I think it's incredible. The Bends, OK Computer, Kid A, like, I think those are all fantastic albums. I just haven't really got much into Sublime to really appreciate it.
See, I'm kind of the opposite because after joining a cover band for Sublime, I got to really appreciate the strength that all three of those guys had as musicians. Like if you listen to like Robin the Hood, which was their second album, the amount of experimentation they used in such a unsavory place is really interesting. And like their last album just has banger after banger after banger. It's like I understand Radiohead is technically a much better band than Sublime. If you want to look at it that way, it's just I think I like Sublime more because they kind of I find their music very uplifting at times.
Oh, totally. I mean but that's sort of the draw, like the kind of it's a double-edged sword with me with Sublime, where it's like it's upbeat, like you said, but I'm also I really wish I was on a beach in California to really appreciate the vibe. With Radiohead, I don't know. I find that like Tom York really uses his voice to a very like just kind of melancholy level almost, and like there's a lot of like mixed emotions I get from like his range of like melodies, and it just kind of gets you in this. I mean, like case in point, like Fake Plastic Trees, fantastic song. Like it's just like I don't even know if I should be feeling like sad or happy. Like I'm just sort of like lost. Like Karma Police. I'm like I don't know how to feel, in a good way.
All right, Josh. I guess you're the tiebreaker here. So.
Yeah, I'm the swing vote here. See, there are moments of each band that I really do enjoy, but there are also parts where they both kind of lose me a little bit. I mean, early Radiohead was still when they were kind of stuck in Britpop mode, and they were really trying to find themselves. And it wasn't until OK Computer that they found something that wasn't Britpop. It wasn't fully alternative. It was kind of somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But then they kind of went more on the electronic side when you get to the 2000s. And then when In Rainbows comes around, they kind of just throw all that out the window and do whatever the hell they want. But
yeah,
the 2010 stuff is kind of where I remember the rollout to the King of Limbs being, everybody was really looking forward to it. It's okay. I'm not super into it, but I do like a lot of what I've heard from A Moon-Shaped Pool. That being said, the run from the Bends through to Kid A / Amnesiac is pretty solid, but at the same time, as someone that has an appreciation for, all kinds of ska and reggae stuff, I do like a lot more of what Sublime was doing, even though they only have 3 real records to go off of. I like the more dub and reggae moments on 40 Ounces to Freedom, the more mellow approach of stuff like Smoke 2 Joints or some other stuff here. Let me just see what I had it up here. I'm probably gonna just check the track listing because I think I heard it recently. I know there's Smoke 2 Joints. Bad Fish is another great one, and the cover of Scarlet Begonias.
I was just about to say Scarlet Begonias cover is super great.
But I have a bit of a personal connection to Robin the Hood because The DS version of Band Hero actually had one of the best Sublime songs that the console version didn't even touch, and I'm kind of a little bit offended that Rock Band didn't even bother to get it, and that is All You Need. If you're looking to get into the more punky side of Sublime, that's a must hear.
Yeah, and Greatest Hits too, and STP, which is a super underrated song.
Oh, definitely. But
Yeah.
I think you did talk about the self-titled album a while ago, but
Yeah,
just
I featured it on my albums episode. Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
came together on that record, and again, it's an example of missed potential, like what could have been.
Yeah.
But I think that is really just a perfect culmination of everything they were working towards. It's got a lot of really solid bangers on it, songs that are still played and beloved to this day.
It's true.
And as much as I can recognize OK Computer and Kid A as the critical juggernauts that they are, they're not exactly records that maybe I would want to listen to all the way through. Maybe like I like Paranoid Android, I like Karma Police, No Surprises. Maybe from Kid A things like I believe Jigsaw Falling Into Place is from there. Either that or the Bends. Let me just check here.
No, Jigsaw Falling Into Place.
Jigsaw Into Place.
I think that's in Rainbows.
I'm mixing up Jigsaw Falling Into Place and Everything in Its Right Place. But that is also a good song. How to Disappear Completely, Idiotech. Like, Radiohead, at this point in my life, they are a little more of a singles band to me. Oh, and High and Dry, of course, but whereas with Sublime, I could see myself getting into more of the album experience. So, from that biased perspective, I would have to give it to Sublime.
Wow.
Fair enough.
That was a shocker.
And not to mention, just I love Bradley Nowell's soulfulness in his voice. Like re-listening to a
he's
song like
great.
Santeria, it's like this is a guy that could, if Sublime really wanted to go more for the hardcore style, he could do that just fine. And if they want to stick to the reggae and ska circuit, they could have done that too.
But yeah, because like he had a good mix of like everything. Like when you listen to a Sublime album, it's very diverse. Like you can go from like something like Santeria to straight up to Seed, which is like practically hardcore punk,
or like
and it
Paddle
switches-
Out or Wrong Way.
Yeah, or even what was it, Voodoo Child, which is almost like the closest thing to a Red Hot Chili Peppers cover song I've ever heard.
It's still funny because he basically sings part of Fight Like a Brave in All You Need.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, what's next? So, gotta keep these guys separated. We got The Offspring versus Nirvana.
Oh.
Oh.
So, which band had the heaviest sound?
Nirvana.
Yeah, actually, yeah. You listen to Bleach, that was already fairly heavy, and while Nevermind did kind of smooth it out a bit, it's still there. And
Yeah.
In Utero, like, amped it back up.
Yeah, I think this is unanimous.
Although the Offspring do have their heavier moments, especially in their early work, but also if you listen to the more hardcore moments on records like Ixnay on the Hombre and Americana, like if you listen to stuff like Cool to Hate or Moments of I Choose, Staring at the Sun from Americana, that's another good one.
Americana
And
is a
even,
good one, yeah. I remember hearing some tracks off of there.
Once they got to the 2000s, it was kind of and Hammerhead from Rise and Fall, Raging Grace is a late era Offspring track that still has the heaviness, not only obviously musicality wise, but from a lyrics perspective. You look up what that song's actually about. That actually it makes a lot more sense now than it did, even more than it did in 2008.
Well, I gotta appreciate albums like Smash too, which is just
Yeah,
so
Smash.
much brimming with energy and hits and bangers.
Speaking of Nitro Youth Energy on that one, it was
I can't
Bad
deny-
Habit, Gotta Get Away.
Yeah, it was a good album too. If you play Crazy Taxi, the whole soundtrack is basically.
I'm gonna probably Lyle, I'm probably gonna trigger you and I when I do this, but everybody la 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 la.
Oh, Steve. Okay. Anyways.
But, like, that's the thing. Like you listen to that riff for Self-Esteem, and I'm like even picturing in my head, a more down-tuned guitar, even slowing down the tempo a little bit, or like giving it a bit more groove. You could make that song even heavier today.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-Esteem, Smells Like Teen Spirit, back to back. Mixing. I think that's been done.
And
Yes.
you took us right out of it. Good job.
Original
How you
Prankster,
doing,
way to
Bernie?
be. Yeah. Yeah, and out of all the bands on this list, like I still can't sing Offspring at karaoke. It really hurts my voice. Dexter Holland is a really amazing vocalist.
It's kind of hard to say because, like, from a guitar perspective, neither band did that much in the way of solos. I guess by default, there was more in Nevermind and Nirvana's discography because, like, there's Breed. There was, of course, Smells Like Teen Spirit. There was stuff on Bleach. I think Blue has a nice solo on there, and maybe School does as well. But Offspring had a few songs with some decent guitar work. Of course, I Choose and Me and My Old Lady. I really like the riff on that.
Yeah. And then you have In Utero, which is virtually like lo-fi noise all through.
In Utero's great though. I mean, I love a song like Francis Farmer Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle.
That's
just because of that. Or there's also like but there's the lighter moments like Dumb or All Apologies. I think Penny Royalty.
Scentless Apprentice is like a really heavy
Scentless
one.
Apprentice, yeah, that's really good.
That's
heavy.
practically a Rage song, yeah.
Very
Yeah.
Ape.
Very Ape,
I think
yep.
Milk gets in an Utero song, right?
Yeah, and so is Travis.
After a certain point, I get mixed up as to what's actually on a record and what's on a B-sides comp.
Alright. Yeah, so if we had to decide which band do we think is heavier, I think I'm going to lean more towards Nirvana.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because they're so unfiltered, they're so raw. Offspring is very polished, and it's
They
very
were raw at
energetic.
first, but they did get a lot more polished over time.
Yeah,
and then
it
Let the
was
Bad
smooth.
Times Roll happen last year, and we don't talk about that record.
Too bad they were in Toronto just last week. I wish I got the chance to see them, but I just didn't have time. But in any case, yeah, I'll give it to Nirvana.
Yeah. But I give Dexter Holland an honorary badass award for having a PhD in, was it molecular biology? Or
Yeah, it's true.
microbiology?
He also has his own hot sauce.
Yes,
really-
I do remember that.
It's really good. Alright, so next up we have Joy Division versus Metallica.
Lyle,
Very-
do we even like need to predict who you're gonna vote for in this situation? I mean, maybe you'll surprise
I'm not
us.
that biased. Okay, so this one's interesting. Best frontman.
James Hetfield versus what's his name?
Ian Curtis.
Ian Curtis.
They have different vibes going for them, though.
They are both interesting in their approach, I'll say that. There's definitely a lot you can take from either one. I mean, obviously one became like a superstar and the other one kind of burnt out, unfortunately, before even reaching the States, so
Yeah.
that was too bad. But, I mean, Ian Curtis is definitely an interesting look at the tortured artist, like someone who had like this awful this awful disability that kept hindering him no matter how many times he played. It wasn't getting any better because he had epilepsy, which at the time was very it was very unknown at the time. Uncommon, unresearched, like undiagnosable, and it's just Metallica, you have James Hetfield, who has like this powerful range to his voice. He can play guitar. He's very like iconic, but at the same time, Ian was a very good. He was a good lyricist, and he had a very distinct manner of displaying himself on stage. He would often do this dance, which which was in part based on his epilepsy, but it was also a way for him to like present himself on stage because he was very shy on stage actually.
What was that movie
And
that was about
I
him?
can relate to that, actually.
What?
What was
I
it?
can-
Oh, sorry. Oh, I was just gonna say, what was that movie that was based on him?
Control.
Yes.
Control. Yeah, I still gotta see that.
That's good. That, and I
Really?
think this might be related, but 24-hour Party People. I don't know if that's fully related to the same scene or not.
It's about the scene, but Control's more about the band Joy Division.
Okay, but yeah, I should rewatch that, actually.
Yeah, no, Control's really good.
And here's the thing, Ian Curtis, like, the way he presents himself on stage, you really get immersed in what the songs themselves are about. I mean, even of course, most people really only know Love Will Tear Us Apart, which I guess it's a shame it was a non-album single. It wasn't actually included on Closer, because that would have been a really fitting send-off. But, Shadow Play, Transmission, She's Lost Control. The story behind She's Lost Control, it just
Really?
makes all of that even more heartbreaking. But
Yeah.
James Hetfield is a great two-way frontman because not only does he have a great handle on, his lead vocals, but the fact that he can do the rhythm guitar. But there are parts where James and Kirk Hammett will do like some dueling solos, like almost a dueling lead, like twin lead kind of thing that a lot of other metal bands do.
Yeah.
And he does that really well. So like he does have the guitar skills as well to back that up.
Yeah, he's very multi-talented. Does he do most of the primary songwriting as well, or I'm not familiar with?
I believe it used to be James and Lars, the drummer, but I think maybe it is still James to a large degree now. Though I don't know in modern times if that's changed. I think all four of them bring stuff to the table now for the most recent records.
That's
Yeah.
how Joy Division was too. All four of them contributed.
It can get kind of rough with the band though if you guys have seen Some Kind of Monster.
Yeah, like the drama.
Oh,
Honestly, I
Jesus.
can't wait for the critical reevaluative essays next year for the 20th anniversary.
It's very raw, just like the drum from Saint Anger.
God, now I'm imagining the trash can snare.
We're
in
not
Joy
talking
Division
about
song.
drums right now, Cody. It's hard because I actually really like these bands both. Maybe one more than the other, but I do like them both. I think I would have to give it to James Hetfield just because of how strong he is as a frontman, how he can conduct an entire audience. Whereas Ian was more insular. Like, apparently during shows, none of them talked to the audience during their plays. They just played through the set and left.
That's part of what being a good frontman is, like not only having like the being able to connect with the more intimate sides of your work, but also being able to connect with everyone, whoever you're playing with, even the people that are in the very front and all the way to the people in the back that like probably can't see very much at all and have to rely on the video screens.
Okay, we have... oh my. So this will be an interesting one. So we got Guns N' Roses versus Rush.
Oh boy.
So what is the category here?
Choose carefully, Lyle. Choose very carefully.
Best lyrics.
Rush.
Rush.
You're damn right they are.
Yeah.
Oh God, they came out here.
That was so quick. That was
Right.
that was
Look,
very
as much
rushed.
as Appetite for Destruction is
Just,
essentially about the five
here's the-
guys in that band trying to make it in Los Angeles in the late 80s,
Yeah.
Rush's song topic, like Neil Peart wrote about all sorts of stuff, and it's a lot more cerebral. You got to think about it a lot more, but there are parts of it where it hits a lot more. Like, listen to a song like Limelight and tell me you don't relate to feeling as if, if you're ever famous, you can't actually really trust anybody around you.
Yeah.
I can't pretend a stranger is a long-awaited friend versus welcome to the jungle, we've got fun and games. We've got everything you want, how do we know the names?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, because Guns N' Roses, they just sing about, like, the trashy part of society. Like, I'm going by, like, Appetite
Well, no, on
for
Appetite
Destruction.
they do. On Use Your Illusion, and this is where, which actually, it's funny because the whole Super Deluxe anniversary re-release of that happened a few weeks ago. Use Your Illusion does give the band a lot more depth, but because it's a double album, there's a lot of consistency that gets sacrificed as a result. Like, there's stuff like Civil War and Don't Cry. I think November Rain may actually be their magnum opus.
Just about to say that.
There was a time in my life where the lyrics, so never mind the darkness, we still can find a way, because nothing lasts forever, even cold November rain. I don't know, it kind of like always like stuck with me. But that aside,
Everybody needs
I think-
somebody.
I think that that Rush has a little bit more written, deep lyrics. That I mean,
Well,
it's a cliche, but it's a cliche.
They had
But
to
like
grow
Tom,
into it, but
Tom
once they grew
Sawyer
into it,
is
they
a
were
well-written
there.
song.
Yeah.
Time Stands Still. Just I've said it several times to you guys in real life. The bridge of, or like one of the post courses of Time Stands Still, with summer's going fast, nights growing colder. That whole part encompasses the sort of like almost futileness of like trying to hold on to the past because you're still gonna get older as time goes on, and things like that.
Even if you look at like their lesser stuff,
Or
like,
Nobody's Hero. That's another really poignant song.
Yeah. It was you who told me about like the real meaning of like the songs After Image and Red Sector A. Also, on that same note, Kid Gloves. That's kind of like a casual like filler song, but I mean still very poignant lyrics.
And subdivisions, a song about everyone that ever grew up in the suburbs feels like they don't really belong there and they want to go downtown to feel like they fit in. But ironically, eventually, some of the other Rush songs in their catalog, then you end up kind of relating to when you get older about, you shouldn't really try to fit into for people that don't really care that much about you in the end.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I guess we're gonna choose a path that's clear, and we will choose free will. We got a legendary crossroad here. Who would you rather be? The Beatles or the Rolling Stones?
Oh, of course it was going to be between these two. This is like
Yeah.
the Yankees versus Red Sox of classic.
I go with
classic
Metric.
bands.
Shut up, Cody.
Boo! Get that guy out of here. This man doesn't speak for us.
I made a Metric reference, so I'm just being as cute as he is.
Yeah.
So I picked a random thing here. The category: Best Drummer.
Ooh,
So
this is
Ringo Starr versus
Charlie Watts for the most part. Though Carlo
Charlie
Little,
Watts.
I believe, also drummed for the band before Charlie Watts was invited to join. Let me just fact check that to be sure. Rest in peace, Charlie Watts.
I don't know who would be like the best one.
They both are similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they're too
because
similar.
Both bands started in the same, or at least similar, skiffle / R&B in the 50s and 60s.
Like that,
Carlo Little.
What do they call it? The Britain explosion? What do you call it?
The British invasion.
The British invasion. Yeah, they kind of like have like similar drum patterns and like. I'm just trying to think of who really goes all out.
Well, that's the thing. Because Ringo did lead vocals on a bunch of notable Beatles tracks, and, he was one of the first drummers to play and sing at the same time.
Mm.
And that's something to consider.
Alright. He's a pretty iconic drummer, even if he's not the most technically
The
proficient
drum
in the
solo on
world.
the end, even if it's
That's a
not
really
that
good one.
complex. Good morning, good morning.
What's that one?
Really, the entirety of Sgt. Pepper's.
It's on Revolver. I know the song. It's off of Revolver.
Tomorrow Never Knows.
Tomorrow Never Knows. Oh my God, that song is wicked. I love that one.
And also, even the percussion on Within You Without You, which is also a Sgt. Pepper's track. Because I was looking at the Rolling Stones discography yesterday, I can't really... the early stuff is still like the early Beatles stuff. They both use a lot of, R&B, early rock and roll covers, and they don't really get a lot of their own original material in. But for the Beatles, it's when it gets to Rubber Soul that things really start to come together. Same with the Rolling Stones. When you get to... Really, from Beggar's Banquet through to Exile on Main Street, that's, peak Rolling Stones for me. And I think Let It Bleed is probably the apex of their whole discography.
Okay.
Yeah, see, I've listened to more full-on albums of the Beatles. I've only listened to just, hits from the Stones.
Yeah,
But-
that's exactly my
goes
point. The
with me.
Beatles, after a certain point, they are more of a record band where it feels like a full, cohesive statement. Whereas with the Rolling Stones, there was that period where they have a lot of good stuff. I mean, Beggar's Banquet, you got Street Find Man, Stray Cat Blues. It freaking opens with Sympathy for the Devil. I think Sympathy for the Devil is some of Charlie Watts' best drum work.
Give me Shelter. I remember I got 100% on that when I played it on hard on drums when I played Rock Band back
Give Me
then.
Shelter is a good mood type of song. It's nothing too hard, but it's just you feel the darkness of that song in there.
Yeah.
And then
Sympathy for the Devil is a good one too.
You can't always get what you want.
Can't always get what you want. Yep.
It's kind of weird though in a lot of ways because both bands had the 60s and a little into the 70s where really their peaks were. The Beatles unfortunately never really got a chance to really go beyond the early 70s, so maybe they were spared in some ways because outside of Start Me Up, nothing really past the late 70s era, mid-late 70s at most has been good of Rolling Stone stuff. Not even... Yes, they're a really solid live band that they're still touring to this day, but there hasn't been a lot of their original stuff outside of maybe that single Doom and Gloom from 10 years ago, and that was still hyped up as the first, big original Rolling Stone song in decades. But the Beatles, at least, their songs stand the test of time for a reason, and especially the ones Ringo sings. With a Little Help from My Friends. That's a classic. Octopus's Garden. Even their cover of Boys that he sings. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
think
can't
I'm
really say
gonna-
the same for Charlie Watts as much.
I'm I'm gonna lean more towards Ringo Starr for this one, if I'm being honest.
Ringo.
Okay. That's
Although
fair.
I do remember there was this one discussion where like there was one time where Ringo was kind of frustrated and he walked out of a studio recording, and so I think Paul McCartney picked up the drums and he started playing. Then someone said, "So who's the best drummer in your band? Is Ringo your best drummer?" He's like, "He's not even the best drummer in the band. He can play too."
Oh my god.
Because they were
And that's
having,
how
like,
the
creative-
60s version of the Foo Fighters was born. Paul McCartney was Dave Grohl before Dave Grohl. He's still got blisters on his fingers.
Next up, we have. This one's really, really garage. We got The Clash versus the White Stripes.
Ooh.
And the category that I pulled up, the band with the least lineup changes.
Gee, I wonder which one.
I wonder which band, the duo or the one that mostly was just held together with Joe Strummer. That was a pretty quick, decisive one. But anyways, our next one, Iron Maiden, one I'm not terribly familiar with, and Blink 182.
Oh god, I'm imagining Bruce Dickinson singing "Damn It" now.
It's alright to tell me what you think about me. And then,
What is
that was
it?
pretty good. That was my first try. In any case, the category is which band has the best logo? Both these bands have logos and icons. So.
Iron Maiden and who? Sorry.
Well, Blink 182 kind of has the
Blink,
smiley face
Iron Maiden and Blink
Blink
182.
slash the bunny, whereas Iron Maiden has Eddie.
Eddie, very iconic Eddie.
I'd have to go with Iron Maiden.
I'll go with
Eddie's
Iron
always getting up to new and exciting things. Have you seen the album covers? You know, he was apparently Satan. He was in space at one point on the latest record, Senjutsu. He's a samurai. Somewhere in time, it's the Blade Runner cyberpunk-esque sort of thing.
He's always doing something, that little guy. I guess that's the thing. That's kind of a dying art form now, having bands that have like
Oh my
mascots.
god, Killers. You know, he's got the axe and Peace of Mind. He's pulling an Ed Flanders. Just can
What?
into like look at the album cover for Power Slave. Like even if Eddie wasn't the pharaoh on the pyramid or on the tomb, that would be a badass album cover regardless.
Yeah.
But just to like you know he's an exciting character, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that-
so,
it-
as opposed to just the X'd out smiley face. kind of a dying art with logos. Yeah. All right, next one: Ramones versus Rage Against the Machine.
Ooh,
This would be nice. And
this could be interesting.
we did pull this category up recently. I put it back, but I think this one's a little bit more applicable. Sharpest dressed. So ones with the best outfits on stage.
Honestly, I gotta go Ramones.
Yeah, Ramones.
Because they were basically they just wore what they had, which was jeans and t-shirts, and yet
Yeah.
that ended up inspiring a whole
They were-
bunch of other bands to just
Jeans.
wear whatever they felt like.
Jeans,
They were coordinated.
t-shirts, and leather.
They all dressed in coordinated outfits. They all
Which
had
is
the
kind
long,
of interesting
shaggy
because,
hair.
again, they are the progenitors of punk rock, and yet it is almost like a sort of pop approach to it in a lot of ways, which when you listen to the Ramones discography, you get a lot more 50s and 60s pop influence, and it's essentially like the early punk rock is 50s and 60s bubblegum pop, but times 1,000,
louder, yeah.
like cranked
Yeah.
up to 1,000. But it makes it way more catchier than it has any right to be, but that's what makes it work so well.
And they all have leather jackets. It makes them look sharper.
Yeah, leather jacket.
It gives them a little bit of an edge, and again, they did have edge to their songs. Like, of course, Lyle, have you listened to 53rd and 3rd lately?
I really like that song actually.
Yeah, that goes to some some dark places. Too Tough to Die, which is an 80s. The 80s era of Ramones gets forgotten, and it's kind of a disservice to their work because there's some really great stuff in their 80s material.
Okay, so we're all gabba gabba for Ramones. All right.
Gabba
sounds
gabba
good.
hey, gabba gabba hey.
All right, next one: AC/DC versus Tool.
I mean,
Potatoes versus the Time Signature people.
Yeah, and the category is best bassist.
Oh, well, Tools had two.
Oh,
Voldemort and Justin
yeah,
Chancellor.
schism for the win. Oh my god.
And of course, Vicarious.
I think that
And
pretty
also
much settles
Tempest
that.
from Fear Inoculum.
46
One
and
thing-
2. Also, killer baseline.
46. Oh, the Grudge, the
Oh,
Pot,
the pot, yep.
Fuck.
Ticks and Leeches. All I'm gonna say is thank goodness that Tool's music is finally on streaming services now.
Finally.
'Cause for a long time it wasn't.
In 2019, when they released their latest album, they finally dropped everything else. I was so happy.
That's not to discredit Cliff Williams, who's been like the main basis for AC/DC, but again, AC/DC is the meat and potatoes and like the dance music of rock. It's very root note, very basic. It doesn't really leave a lot to the imagination.
Yeah, I
AC/DC
can't really
does.
think of a bass line from AC/DC.
Dun, 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 dun. This is an AC/DC baseline. Dun, 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 dun,
It's
dun,
all
dun,
root
dun,
notes,
dun,
it's
dun,
all
dun,
strummed
dun,
single
dun,
notes,
dun,
there's
dun,
not really a
dun,
lot
dun,
going
dun,
on.
dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun,
But
dun.
the bass
It's
works
boring.
better live at least because again, you know, the big rock endings and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's very straightforward. And I mean,
If this were guitar, it might be a different story though.
Oh, for sure. I mean, AC/DC is very frontman heavy. It's very like even drums would be a good comparison, but like the bass, it's like it wasn't ever. In the
I wouldn't say
forefront.
drums would be a good comparison. Guitar definitely though. You have Adam Jones and Angus Young. There could be some arguments there.
Oh, very well, but yeah, I think Tool easily runs away with this one. We're almost done the first round, guys.
I was like, we're almost done. The first round.
First round. Okay. Oh, this one's gonna piss Cody right off in the ass.
All right, get on with it.
He's gonna sob. He's gonna wince.
What is it?
Is he about to fall on Black Days or something? God damn it.
Soundgarden versus
I was kidding.
versus your nerd's favorite band, Pink Floyd.
I liked doing that episode, but it
What's
doesn't
the
mean I'm my
category?
favorite band or anything.
What's the
The
category?
category: which band had the biggest legacy?
That's also kind of. That's also not fair.
I know,
Yeah.
Because Pink Floyd have been around since the late '60s, early '70s, and
This is
Soundgarden were only really
this is-
'80s until like 2010s, and not
this is
really a
an
thing
age
anymore,
one.
unfortunately.
Which
You guys,
Yeah.
had the
Cody's
best
not
legacy.
fair.
Best legacy. I mean, it goes without saying that, you know, I don't see a lot of people wearing a lot of bad Motorfinger shirts as
They
opposed to.
should.
Yeah,
I
they
have
should.
one.
They should.
I have one.
Then people that are walking around wearing like Dark Side shirts, like just trying to think of like
because
legacy.
it's that one record though. No one's walking around with a cow on their T-shirt or you know the brick
should.
wall I can see, but not a cow or you know whatever's on a saucer full of secrets or I mean
Animals
even
would
the
be a good
the
one.
mouth of the wall I would imagine gets more.
Echoes would be nice.
That's
I'd
the
like
thing
a
though with
shirt like that.
Soundgarden's legacy, I feels like it's still really a work in progress because Chris Cornell's passing was only about 5-ish years ago, which isn't that long, and some of the other members are still involved. They're still involved in music and doing stuff, but I feel like it's still very much a work in progress, especially because the whole legal issues with stuff with the Cornell estate and other members. It makes it kind of complicated, but I think at its core, it's you know I still think Soundgarden is as overall the heaviest of the big four.
They are.
overall.
Oh yeah,
I would
100%. What? Alice in Chains, probably a close runner-up.
Alice in
but-
Chains started heavy, but they got a little bit more on the more rocky side. Like they made the sound fit a bit more to what radio rock was, especially with stuff like Black Gives Way to Blue and The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here. I still hear bits of it, but it's been diluted. With Soundgarden, it always kind of felt like there was that heaviness in a lot of ways. Whether it's again stuff like you know Louder Than Love, Hands All Over,
Louder
Get
Than
on the
Love.
Snake, or going through to obviously Bad Motorfinger, Rusty Cage, Outshined. One of my favorite tracks, Face Pollution.
Face Pollution,
Room
yeah.
1,000 Years Wide, Slaves
Oh.
and Bulldozers.
Room 1,000 Years Wide is fucking heavy as hell. I love that one.
Because that's the thing. Really, Pink Floyd, for me and probably for a lot of people, is... God, I have to remember. I can't believe it was over a year ago that we did this freaking episode on it, but...
Right?
Probably from Adam Hardmother through to the Wall era. After that, I can take it or leave it for the most part. The Division Bell was better than I expected, but a lot of the 80s stuff I can do without if I had to choose.
I mean, if we're looking at legacy though, like I don't know, I just with
Well,
Soundgarden.
David Gilmour's been a really solid guitarist, and he's a good songwriter. Of course, Roger Waters is, a great songwriter in his own right.
I think if you strip away Bad Motorfinger and Super Unknown, like to be honest, I'm not really that big of a fan of Down on the Upside, and I don't even think I got through King.
It's okay.
Animal.
It was 96.
It was King Animal, right? I forgot the
King
one.
Animal
Yeah,
was kind of
King
like,
Animal.
yeah. I remember when Soundgarden was coming back, and a lot of people were excited. And of course, another Guitar Hero fact: they actually put the majority of that compilation, Telephantasm, out as DLC for Warriors of Rock in late 2010. Which is funny. My copy on PS3 actually came with a copy of that. It was like one of the first run.
Side question: Did Black Rain come out on
It was
Guitar
on
Hero?
disc.
Yes.
It was on the disc for
Okay.
Warriors of Rock, and later in Guitar Hero Live there was that. There was The Day I Tried to Live, Black Hole Sun, Spoon Man, and I think that might have been it.
Yeah.
But that's I guess I don't disagree with you, Cody, in that for a lot of people they'll probably only think of Bad Motorfinger and Super Unknown, and maybe some of the stuff like with Chris's solo stuff. But with Pink Floyd, there was solo stuff, but I think they have that longer music. They have that longer span of time to work with.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, I'm just
It sounds
Pink Floyd.
unfair,
It's
but yeah,
is
would
Pink
have
Floyd.
to.
Yeah.
Pink Floyd's just had such an indelible mark in rock history. We're on our last freaking round, boys.
Oh, good.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so we have the last two bands in the roster, Queen and Van Halen.
Ooh, okay. This could go
Oh.
All
somewhere.
right. I like the sound of this one.
The category is which band had the greatest solo work?
Well, I kind of don't think that's really a contest if you think
Can
about
we
it.
say? I'm gonna say Queen.
You
Yeah.
heard the category?
Yeah, solo work. Oh, solo. Oh, so
Yeah.
I thought you meant like guitar
Like-
solos. My bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like guitar solos.
Okay.
Wait,
Because
not
Freddie
like
Mercury had his
band
own
member
solo
work?
career, right?
I don't think so. It's like I think what I was meant like which band had the most iconic solos.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little tougher, but I still have an answer. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I think Eddie.
Cue Eruption.
Yeah.
I rest my case.
Yeah, Eddie Van Halen definitely has the better solos.
Rest in peace, man. Just the way that
I
the
like
reverb
Brian
comes
May,
in
though.
when the tapping
Yeah.
starts on Eruption, that still blows my mind. And the opening of Running with the Devil, I mean, I don't count as a bass solo, but just the riff
It's the
of boom, boom,
Closest
boom.
thing to a
Like,
bass solo.
Also, there's the cover of You Really Got Me, the way that he's able to translate his style of playing onto that song.
Yeah.
I was like the Hot for Teacher.
Yes.
Really rapid intro.
Yeah, the tapping in the intro
Oh.
for Hot for Teacher and the actual solo, that's pretty iconic. Panama, of course. Even in the Van Hagar era, there's still some solid guitar work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It would be
Yeah.
nice if we
No.
could
Yeah. Brian May is definitely
But
solid.
yeah, not to ignore
Yeah.
Brian May. Brighton Rock as a whole, I have not talked about that yet, but Brighton
Brighton
Rock
Rock's an
is
excellent
great.
song.
Of course, the solo on Bohemian Rhapsody is pretty freaking
Oh.
iconic.
Super iconic.
And Keep Yourself Alive, which is one of the
Yeah.
first big hits, and Seven Seas of Rye as well. The first three Queen records are pretty fantastic.
Stone Cold Crazy has a good solo.
Yes, Stone Cold Crazy is
Yeah.
like one of the more metallic Queen songs. I Want It All,
I want it all. Yeah.
that gets pretty crazy. I'm trying to think of some other ones here.
Even,
Killer
even
Qu-
something as simple as We Will Rock You, like it's all drum
Yeah.
and
Yeah, the
vocal, and he
the solo, the
starts
way it
out-
builds up to the end, and then of course We Are the Champions has a little mini solos throughout. One Vision from A Kind of Magic,
Yeah.
that's got a neat solo near the end with the drum solo sort of going over at the same time. Which, as an aside, to go back to Soundgarden for a sec, a song like Spoon Man having like a bass riff, a guitar riff, and a sort of drum solo all going over each other at the same time.
Hell yeah.
You don't see that a lot. I'm trying to think of what other Queen song.
Yeah. I'm kinda-
39 doesn't really have any solos, but that's a neat idea. March of the Black Queen, Ogre Battle. Ogre Battle's awesome. It's just it gets like early Queen is almost borderline prog at times.
Oh yeah, it always
at,
was
at times,
above-
especially with
a
Queen
cut
2.
above a lot of the other bands that were out at the time.
And it's even like stuff like what is it, Headlong and the show must go on from Innuendo.
Yeah.
That's got some really great guitar work in there. And I think Mother Love, which was on Made in Heaven. It's weird because like Brian May has his own style, especially with the Red Special. But Eddie Van Halen, with whether it's the Frankenstrat or just like his style of playing inspired a whole generation of guitar players. I mean, Brian May is certainly influential, but I don't think you can top, basically pioneering an entire style of playing an instrument.
Yeah.
That's
Or
true.
Yeah, I think Eddie. Yeah, 100%.
What are we talking strictly again? Are we talking strictly guitar? Because again, the opening drum solo on Hot for Teacher is pretty badass.
I guess all instruments count in this regard.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, the entirety of David Lee Roth's existence.
Alright, so we're on to our second round. So we have Red Hot Chili Peppers versus Black Sabbath.
Oh.
I'm going to need you guys to pull out Google, because this category is which band has the most highest selling albums.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Red
I
Hot
still
Chili
feel like
Peppers
this
and
will lean
who?
Towards Chili Peppers.
I think Chili Peppers. I
Yeah.
actually went through a list.
It's kind of the
Yeah.
thing when you're like the first to really make a genre. You don't always get a lot of sales initially, or you don't always get a lot of sales. Oh, you get them over time. You don't get them in the beginning.
Do you say Black Sabbath and Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. if
And I'm
there's
gonna
a
guess
website for
Californication is probably their highest selling record. I'm not really factoring in streams, of course, because I don't know the exact numbers, but I'd imagine physical sales for Californication, or even actually no, Blood Sugar Sex Magic may equal or surpass that.
This. Yeah, I was gonna say that's a contender.
Says here that worldwide 75 million copies for everything in Black Sabbath's discography. And for Chili Peppers...
Go here.
Oh, I have it.
Here are some.
It's 120 million for Chili Peppers worldwide.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Holy shit. That's insane.
We're on to our next one. So, the White Stripes versus Linkin Park. I think the only bands on our list are around the 2000s.
Could you
Yeah.
imagine Jack White singing One Step Closer? Everything you say to me, oh, 'cause I'm about to break.
Everything you say to me! I need a little room to breathe! Why am I so good at impersonating people? Okay, so the category is which band had the longer career?
Well, Linkin Park by default. But
think Linkin
technically,
Park. Yeah.
Jack White's got a solo career
He
that's...
does.
But we don't count that. But, yeah, Linkin Park. By at least 6-ish years. Probably
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Even though Seven Nation Army is a riff that's gonna last a lifetime.
It's a sports anthem now.
It is.
But
Yeah.
also it's got, like... That's the thing. Jack White as a guitarist, I think, was doing a lot of stuff, even in the late 90s and early 2000s, that... it was kind of ahead of its time in a way, and the way he's approaching on the solo work. I mean, even outside of the work he's doing, he's basically built Third Man Records into the sort of quasi-empire that it is, stuff beyond music. And of course, he was in It Might Get Loud after, only really being in music for, almost 10 years? Not even 10 years? I think with this Linkin Park, they had a bigger commercial reach. Although ironically, they were for a time the White Stripes and Linkin Park were both on Warner.
So we have Iron Maiden versus Led Zeppelin. And the category is which band had the most sex appeal?
Well, I mean, you kind of have to go with Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Robert Plant is sexy as fuck.
Did I ever?
Big shirtless Rob.
I just picture him
Robert?
shirtless with his long blonde hair, or just like
Oh,
an
yeah.
open shirt. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Well,
I've
that was
seen
the
pictures
that
of him
was
in an open
that was
shirt.
how rock was at the time. John Bonham was just going nuts on the drum.
Yeah, with
There's
Iron
also-
Maiden,
Yeah, does Iron Maiden have much sex appeal? They're kind of just like hard.
Run to the Hills.
Well, actually, that's the thing. Bruce
Run of the
Dickinson,
Hills
when he had the
is
long
about
hair at first,
colonization.
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
here's the thing though. In the music videos for Run to the Hills and Number of the Beast, when Bruce Dickinson had the long hair and he was belting Run to the Hills with the long, he's belting those notes. Like when he's going up, like it's very operatic, but the way he's able to sell that was pretty impressive. And then of course,
Hallowed Be Thy
Number of
Name.
the Beast.
Yeah, Number
Hallowed
of the
Be Thy
Beast.
Name as well.
Yeah, Number of the Beast. Yeah.
But yeah, you can't. Iron Maiden wasn't really going for sex appeal in that way because they were very much, they're songwriters and musicians first and men second. That doesn't sound right in me saying that, but they were more focused on making the song sound as good as they could.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
That's a perfectly worthy tribute to a band, but yeah.
So my mom once told me the story about how I think she was on my parents honeymooned in St. Lucia, and my mom is pretty certain that she saw Robert Plant in a bar down there, like just while she was there.
Nice.
Ooh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and apparently like she was one of the, my mom of course was like, yeah, he was very attractive. Like
Female perspective.
I mean, if you
Exactly.
listen to a song like You Shook Me, like Robert Plant definitely has the vocal stuff going on.
Yeah.
I think I heard that in one of my university classes the year I was in university
Oh yeah.
for that era of rock.
Nice.
All right. Well, that's pretty cut. and
That
dry.
settles that.
Next one. This one's gonna be a debate. So we got Slipknot versus Metallica.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
The category is most controversial.
Slipknot.
Yeah,
I would
Slipknot.
have to say
100% Slipknot.
Other than the Napster debacle with
Which, let's be
Lars-
real, Napster itself is still around technically, but as a streaming service, except now it's owned by a Web3 company.
Wah, wah.
I think with the Slipknot and their lyrics and their image, it was really like in the early days.
It was that era of like new metal and harder edge stuff where part of it was the shock value, but part of it was also it's controversial because it's actually real stuff. Like it's it's trying to get people to understand, try to get them to understand things that they maybe don't want to acknowledge themselves.
Was this the same? I may be wrong on this, but was Slipknot the band that brought like animal what's the word?
Carcasses.
Carcasses. Yeah. They brought that on stage. Or am I thinking of the right band?
I don't know.
about
Hmm.
that. I don't think they went that
I know
far.
there was
Okay,
actually
I don't want to
Fuse-
solidify that, but
On Fuse, there was this episode of the show Genius in like 2011, like the late 2000s, early 2010s, that focused on Corey Taylor, and just like the part about the early shows for the Masks, they pushed themselves to the physical and emotional limits with those things because the early Masks were not really built for comfort or any sort of any accommodations at all, but like they push themselves in a lot of ways when they're making their music because the way they want their music to come out is how they want the fans to feel, and especially live as well. They put themselves in the early days, even up to like I don't know, maybe Volume 3 All Hope Is Gone era, like Volume 3 the Subliminal Verses was like when most people really got properly introduced to Slipknot, though IOO is an excellent record.
yeah.
Once like All Hope Is Gone era, it was like they kind of toned stuff down a little bit, but like you watch some of those early Slipknot shows, like they don't hold anything back.
Yeah.
And there was also that incident in South Africa.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
What-
should
what
we talk
was-
about that or maybe
What
not?
was it?
What was it? Yeah.
Just, I guess, it was this fan of their. Well, I don't know, a longtime fan, just someone who got into their music, and then went into school and assaulted.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
In South Africa?
Yeah.
Oh,
This
wow.
was in summer 2008. Well, again though, see that's the thing. Is another example. It's like a lot of bands, especially in the metal scene, that were either around or was just starting and making a name for themselves post Columbine. Stuff like that's gonna happen, and you get lumped in with all kinds of messed up stuff.
Yeah, they aren't the first or last band to have that unfortunate incident happen to them.
So 2008. That was around All Hope Is Gone was released.
Around that, yeah.
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, the only
Metallica.
thing that Metallica's really guilty of is being involved in the loudness wars, but that's more a mixing thing that's obviously been fixed about. Except they should still re-release Injustice for All with Jason Newsted's bass at proper levels.
Next one, Van Halen versus the Beatles.
Oh.
And this next category, guys, I'm gonna be honest, it's pretty straightforward. Which band had the best guitarist?
Van Halen.
Yes.
Van Halen.
Probably
Sorry,
Van
George.
Halen, yeah.
It's kind of simple.
Yeah.
No brainer.
But, yeah.
All right,
So
what's
for-
next, Bracket Master?
All right, so next up, I think we have our last remaining punk bands, guys. So they're duking it out. We got the Ramones versus Sublime, and the category is which one has the most streamed song on Spotify.
It's either gonna be What I Got for Sublime versus probably Blitzkrieg Bop for Ramones, and I feel like because Blitzkrieg Bop is a little bit shorter, it might actually eke it out.
We'll see.
I will confirm that in a second.
I
Blitzkrieg
got
Bop
Sublime.
has 235 million, and
And Sublime
Sublime
has Santeria,
44 million. Yep,
Yeah.
that makes
Well, I
sense.
figured it was
Crunches.
gonna be that. It was gonna be something from the self-titled for sure.
It makes sense because Sublime has like this radio presence, whereas Ramones is a little. I'm actually surprised Blitzkrieg Bop is so low comparatively.
I mean, it was in a Diet Pepsi commercial.
Oh man, this one's gonna give me a headache. We got Tool versus Rush. Man, this is all up to the categories now. Which band had the longer discography?
Rush.
Rush, yeah.
That's not fair to
Yeah.
Tool though, because they took
It's
like
really
13
not.
years between 10,000 Days and Fear Inoculum, and they're still a newer band.
Yeah, Rush,
don't
or
like
sorry,
this. Not
Tool.
bad at all.
Tool's a band that really takes their time to release an album.
Which
And
is
that's-
good,
that's
but part
commendable.
of
Yeah.
why it took so long because they had a bunch of record label stuff to deal with in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's really. As soon as I picked that one, I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Tool. That's a kick in the nuts." The last round now for round 2.
Nice.
We got. Oh, this will be interesting. We got Pink Floyd versus Nirvana.
Oh.
Oh.
The category is best vocalist.
We got 2 versus 1.
This is interesting.
We
Roger-
got 2 vocalists versus 1 sort of vocalist.
Sort of. That's better. That's a better take.
Wow.
Well, yeah.
Not to throw any shade Kurt's way, but it's like he didn't try. Oh, he didn't overexert, but he didn't try super hard.
When you
which is both a good and a bad thing.
when you listen to what's the one they did with the meat puppet Plateau off of the MTV Unplugged, his voice
There's a few Meat Puppets covers on that.
Plateau, his voice cracks a lot in
But
that one.
he's giving it his all.
Gonna bucket it and wanna think about birds.
Well, that's the thing, though. Even in some of the early stuff, like you'll hear the voice cracks in some of that stuff.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
even Roger Waters has like a bluntness to his lyrics, or sorry, to his singing, and David Gilmour has harmony and
And
can
he's got
really.
a bluntness to his lyric writing. He's got a general bluntness about him.
But even that, I know I don't want to go over it too much because we already broke it down enough. But it's always nice when David Gilmour and Richard Wright does like a duet together.
It's a yin yang kind of thing. You know, one balances the other out, and they sort of both need each other as a result to sort of complement things.
Yeah. Try to think of
But that's
a
the thing,
good
with Nirvana, you
song.
don't hear much else.
Try to think of a Nirvana song where like there's like good okay. I think In Bloom he sings like really good in.
Something
I like
in the way.
All apologies. Yeah.
All apologies.
All
too, especially
Apologies,
the end
yep,
with-
that's a better
it's
one.
like almost not quite counterpoint, but with all in eyes, all in all, like it's sort of almost it's like a loop, but it does sort of carry itself
Yeah.
out. What's
For sure.
I kind of like
his
Stay
vocals
Away.
on that.
Da 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 da. That and Breed kind of have that almost like da 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 da. Or it feels like there's
There's
something in the
one
background.
song where he just completely cracks his voice in half. I forget which one. Territorial pissings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, near the end, he just kind
Oh
of
my god.
throws caution to the wind.
Explodes.
Where
Stay
That's
away.
still some of the early punk sound.
Even where did you sleep last night? He sings pretty good on that one.
The Man Who Sold the World, the live
Sold the
version of
World.
it's not bad. Even if he kind of overreaches on a note on the solo, but recovers.
Oh, that's the David Bowie one,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thanks. That was a David Bowie song.
Yeah.
David Bowie song. I mean, I guess Pink Floyd is a little bit more mannered in their delivery. Like, they're a bit more, like, the tonality is pretty soft and even. But then again, these are, like, two different types of
But
genres.
Nirvana have softer moments. It's just they're not as pronounced as Pink Floyd's softer moments. I mean, the entirety of basically the whole "Shine On You Crazy Diamond" suite, like that's a triumph.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's your
Wish You Were
favorite.
Here.
That's some
Like, I don't know if Nirvana has a "Wish You Were Here" or "Another Brick in the Wall" Part 2 or a "Money" or "The Great Gig in the Sky." Unless you want to
Yeah.
count Territorial Pissings as "The Great Gig in the Sky" because they just throw caution to the wind.
Nah.
maybe the end of Where Did You Sleep Last Night, or maybe
It,
Cody, what's the song? Is that Oh Me?
no. Omi is a. If I had to lose your mind, I only touch feeling.
That's a really good song.
Yeah,
I
would.
think part of what Nirvana kind of misses out is that there's not really a lot of harmonizing. At least with Pink Floyd, you get a little bit of that in the mix. With Nirvana, it's just mostly Kurt at the forefront. Maybe live, Chris or Pat or Dave did a little bit of background vocals, but I haven't been able to really pick anything out in particular.
Oh, there in him and Dave actually did a duet. What song was it?
Marigold.
It was
Come As You Are.
Isn't me haven't seen it was
Polly.
Polly, yeah, Polly and the
Here's
Polly.
the thing. It's kind of weird when you're teaching drums and you're trying to use that as like the opening song because there's barely any drums. But then you look into what the song's about, and in hindsight, I'm thinking maybe it's not the best song to use to get a teenager into playing the drums because it's kind of a really messed up song.
In the MTV Unplugged, Dave and Kurt sang together.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's true
It was
because I
pretty
can see
good.
the harmonies on Polly, as messed up as the song itself is. It's got some depth. to
Let
it.
me clip your dirty wings. Let me take a ride. Cut yourself. Yeah. They did a really good job with that one, actually. It's hard. It's hard now. I thought this would have been. I thought Pink Floyd.
I'm pretty set in my decision, but I'm curious what you guys say.
Yeah, I'll go with Pink Floyd.
I'm going Pink Floyd because here's the thing. I'm sure they get annoyed having to do their big songs over and over, but like they were okay with it. I really don't think Kurt Cobain was prepared to be the quote-unquote voice of a generation.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna
Or
go
if
with
he was, he certainly wasn't prepared for how many people would come to idolize him in such a short amount of time, and that's another factor. Pink Floyd, they gradually grew themselves over the course of really at least a good 6 to 10 years over the course of the late 60s to early 70s. Nirvana basically went from a smaller indie band in 88, 89 to the biggest band in the world just a few years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's going to mess anybody up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little biased. I would lean towards Nirvana, but I think Pink Floyd's probably the right decision.
Yeah.
I accept that. Alright, next up we have Slipknot versus Sublime. I feel like this is going to be, and the category is Best Drummer.
Well, see, Bud Go actually could go pretty hard on some of the faster stuff, but you got Joey Jordison and Jay Weinberg. Like, I don't think you can really you can really compare, ska / borderline punk with new metal.
It's hard to really compare the two, yeah. But
I
do
have to go with
appreciate-
Slipknot on this just because the double bass work
Oh,
on all
yeah.
that stuff. The drum solo that Joey Jordison would do live, where he would be like the drum set would almost go perpendicular to the stage, and he would be harnessed in and drumming. And just the drum work Jay's been doing on like the blasts on The Devil and I, and Unsainted, and even some of the newer stuff on like The End so far. It's it's relentless at times. Like there's softer moments like Snuff, or maybe was it Vermilion from Volume 3. There's some softer bits here and there, but it's pedal to the metal all the time. With Bud, there are those softer moments like Santeria, or again Doing Time, really anything where you get to have a groove going. But like he's more balanced.
There are moments, I will say, where he can like change tempo on a dime. Like you listen to STP, Greatest Hits, Seed, as well as
I think Saw Red's another really good example of
Red too.
the faster paced stuff where he's like he is locked in.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting how you can just do that so quickly.
And all you need, it goes from the more the reggae verses to like the louder, harder edge choruses.
I quite like Bud Gow as a drummer. I haven't really examined Slipknot's drumming, although I'll probably accept the fact that they probably go in a lot harder.
And Slipknot has an extra edge in that the extra percussion.
Oh yeah, they have
Clown
two fucking
and Chris Fenn. Now whoever replaced Chris
true.
Fenn, I do not know their name right now, but
yeah,
you have
that is
the extra like floor toms in there.
That's a good point.
Not quite like having a marching band like drum line, but it's just like
right.
you can hear it in the background of songs like Before I Forget, or Sulfur, or Psychosocial, or Wayne Bleat Left Behind. It adds another dimension to the sound of that band that one drummer alone can't do. And even if a lot of it is like really brought out in the studio, they can still really bring it live. And the fact that Clown is one of the creative like centers of Slipknot, so the fact that he's directed a lot of the videos, he's got a lot of say in songwriting, and he's still a pretty prominent figure in the band. It's not just Corey, it's not just Mick Thompson, it's not just Jim Root. Like Clown's up there too.
Joey for the win. I forgot. Well, I also forgot about the other percussionists in the band, so that also adds to it.
It helps that, in Jay's case, his dad's only the drummer of like one of the biggest bands on the planet in the E Street Band, but nepotism isn't exactly not frowned on in certain circles.
Right.
Mm.
Okay, so I guess we're leaning to Slipknot then.
Yeah.
Right.
Not many bands have percussionists. I'll note that. All right, next round we have Linkin Park and Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh.
Mm.
And going back to the probably the one I kind of like the most. Which one is our personal favorite? So now we're just slinking all categories and we're going straight up bias here.
I gotta go Chili Peppers on this one.
Chili Peppers.
Just because the majority of their discography I either really like or I can see myself coming back to more often. Linkin Park have Hybrid Theory and Meteora, which is their new metal years. But once you get to Minutes to Midnight, things get a little more uneven for me.
I mean, Linkin Park has only appealed to me at one part of my life, and whenever I want to be reminded of that part of my life, I will put on Linkin Park to go back to it.
Well, see,
Chili
I
Peppers...
disagree with that.
Okay, well...
yes, the new metal years, people had a new metal phase. They want to go back to how they felt. But that's not to say the later era stuff doesn't have some parts I like. I mean, I
Fair
like
enough,
songs...
Yeah.
Even a song like Burn It Down, which is a little more electronic leaning from Living Things, that's solid enough. I like Wastelands from the Hunting Party because it's like more of a return to their roots. I think the one thing is that Red Hot Chili Peppers don't really have a One More Light. They do have a The Getaway, but it's not as much of a dissonance as One More Light was, which is kind of unfortunate.
Well,
but it's okay. The title track from that record is really great.
Well,
but not much else.
Well, what I was getting at was I don't mean to say that but here's the thing, Linkin Park really only appealed, I still like Linkin Park, their older stuff up to Meteora, but that stuff appealed to me. There was a time when that music was everywhere. You go to when we were in grades 9 and 10, just that it was everywhere.
Because that's people our age were only getting into that then, even though it was from half a decade prior when we were still in middle school age.
Yeah, well, with the Chili Peppers on the other hand, I remember discovering Californication when I was 16, and then I really liked that.
I got into that when when Californication came out, when
Yeah,
99.
in
I remember
99,
seeing
yes.
part of the coverage on Much Music. Scar Tissue was on Big Shiny Tunes 4, which
Yes.
maybe someday we'll do a Big Shiny Tunes deep dive.
Yeah, but that was but for me, like, the Chili Peppers music has appealed to me, at all stages of my life. Is what I mean. I'm
It has
trying to
more of an
explain
evergreen feel.
my point exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Although, granted, I'm sure everybody has a I wish I could just bum around California phase.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of the thing, though, like, from probably... the interesting thing is, like, yeah, they were more of, like, a more funky take on punk in the, like, for the self-titled debut, and even a little into Freaky Starlight, but Freaky Starlight, they were straight up funk. Like, they were... George Clinton produced that. That's a really solid record that I don't think a lot of people check out just because it's like it's still where they're finding their sound. But once you get to the Uplift Mofo Party Plan, you're guaranteed pretty much a solid journey all the way through to even like the mid 2000s at most.
Yeah.
At least, rather. And then I'm With You, I think, has held up relatively well. It's
Yeah.
got some really good moments on there.
I'm With You from
But
2016, right?
2011.
Oh, 2011. Sorry.
The Getaway is 2016.
Oh, okay.
Other than Black Summer, I've not heard anything else from Unlimited Love or really anything from Return of the Dream Canteen. But
Okay.
I think with that, it's just more like, if you're going to have enough material to put out 2 records, just put out 1 really good record instead of like 2 long records.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Cody?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I was really thinking about this while you guys were talking.
Yeah, same.
I think I can listen to more songs individually from Linkin Park and really get into them, but when it comes to Red Hot Chili Peppers, it's really Blood Sugar Sex Magic as an album that I just absolutely love and I
you gotta
adore.
give 1 more minute a chance. Come on, 1 hot minute. Sorry.
Well, I don't know.
I'm mixing up Weird Al and Linkin Park.
I'm just kind of like not really into Chili Peppers like later stuff, to be honest. I'm just not really. I don't know. I don't know what it is that rubs me the wrong way with it. Maybe it is a lot of airplay or kind of similar to Sublime, where I'm just like, I'm not on a beach in California. I'm sure if I was, I'll be digging it.
You could be on a beach in a colder place.
In your mind.
But for Linkin Park, yeah, I kind of agree with what Evan was saying, where it kind of brings you back to that times in the 2000s. Like, I remembered listening to, like, I mean, I know it's a remix, but it's like Jay-Z and Linkin Park's...
I was going to talk about the Collision Course EP. That was pretty unheard of in 2004, because I was like, I mean, Jay-Z had put out, like, the Black Album and all that stuff up to that point, but, like, this is pre-Empire State of Mind. This is, this is still Jay-Z at the relative peak of his powers, and he's doing a 5-6 song EP with Linkin Park, and they're reworking a lot of their songs.
Yeah, like
that was
like
that was almost like the Bring the Noise 91 or the Walk This Way, or it was like some of those.
Yeah, it's like the Numb Encore and what else? I'm trying to remember.
Can I Get It and Faint?
Yeah, I think individually, but what would I listen to? I think I would get the gist and just kind of the feel of Linkin Park by just listening to like a greatest hits compilation. But I think my personal opinion, Blood Sugar Sex Magic is like a really good kind of like, I don't know, I get into that album a lot. And
is that also because you played it in Rock Band?
For me,
no, not at all, actually.
For me, it's more like Stadium Arcadium or Californication that I can really get into.
Yeah, I think I'll go with Chili Peppers.
Chili Peppers.
I mean, these are bands that I don't like love. I respect them, I like them, but so that's why I was trying to duel them out a bit. These are not like bands that I love and I'm struggling. These are like very like kind of like 4 out of 5 kind of good bands that I'm struggling to be like which one's better than the other.
By the way, I'm more of a Linkin Park fan, but it didn't really matter when 3 other guys say
Yeah.
It was a close call. Alright,
so we got 2 big classic bands left. Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin.
Oh Jesus, I'm done. Done. Bye.
Oh.
Checking out.
Gotta category.
Sit back
Oh, don't
down.
do this. No, don't do this to me. Oh,
I'm gonna try and pick a good one.
oh
It sucks
this is
to
hurting.
And then you
chuck
pick
it
the
in
worst possible
garbage.
category.
Oh. Alright.
Okay, this is so appropriate. Best live shows.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
God damn. Are we counting Roger Waters' The Wall Tours or no?
I think we should strictly count actual band live shows, not solo stuff.
Okay, because that's the only time I've seen Pink Floyd live. So.
The Echoes live thing from Rome, where they're all shirtless in the Coliseum.
Hell yeah.
Cody died. Cody died.
He was experiencing technical difficulties.
I know I close my eyes and I'm trying to think of every single
And there's
glimpse
Pulse,
of
which he
live
wouldn't stop
concerts.
talking about in that pop talk.
I'm trying to think of
But
every
Zeppelin had some
single-
good moments too.
Oh man.
I mean, I'm sure hearing the drum solo from Moby Dick live would have blown some minds.
Yeah.
That's the thing though, like outside of the Live 8 concert, Live 8 in 2005, there hasn't really been any live stuff per se, but like the fact that the surviving members of Led Zeppelin and Jason Bonham, John's son, did the one-time reunion in 2007 for Celebration Day. That was something most people thought they would never see again.
Yeah.
And especially at that time in history. Because that and the Mothership compilation, I can guarantee, reignited a lot of people's interest in Zeppelin.
It was actually the Mothership greatest hits.
Mothership.
That got me into it.
Celebration Day, I think, is that not a song of theirs?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. The point is, Mothership is the live album. I thought there was the...
It's both.
It's both.
Yeah, it's a dual album.
Okay, let me see. I need to be absolutely sure because I remember listening to it for a time. No, Celebration Day is the video, the movie, the live show.
But wasn't it included in Mothership? I remember there was
It
two.
may have.
Yeah, I think there was 2 discs, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Oh no, it was released on its own.
Oh, was it? Oh.
Yeah, Celebration Day came out in I think 2012 or 2013. I think it was 2013.
Ah, maybe we just lumped them all together. Growing up in my house, my parents, yeah, we probably
I'm
just
saying
lumped them
between
all.
Mothership though, at that time with that live concert, that got a lot of people back into Led Zeppelin. But the fact that, Pink Floyd haven't really done much outside of their own solo stuff, except when David and Nick put out that new song earlier this year. Which that was also surprising because I didn't think they would do any more music after The Endless River.
Oh, is it the song for
The song for Ukraine.
For Ukraine, yeah.
I have to remember what it's called. I think it was
Hey something.
Hey Rise Up.
Hey Rise Up, yeah. Yeah, I was literally just trying to think of any sort of live performances that I recall.
I don't think I've seen any.
Probably. I'm sure you could find Celebration Day if you look, and that. Well, granted, that's latter day Zeppelin, but it's the fact that even happened at all is pretty impressive.
I'm such a broken record. I gotta go with fucking Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I wonder
From
why.
September of '68 until the summer of 1980,
Oh.
Led Zeppelin were actually like one of the most popular live bands in the world.
Yeah,
So like they've been around.
I'm probably gonna lean more.
Oh,
towards
and of
Led
course the
Zeppelin
song remains the
myself.
same is pretty important.
yeah.
So Cody is Pink Floyd. I'm Led Zeppelin. Where do you two sit?
And this is like for live performances.
Yeah, the
Oh.
best live band.
performances.
I'm gonna go. Oh, this is tough.
It's like this is the Jeopardy song for this category.
I lost on Jeopardy.
No, I'm just picturing now Jeopardy waiting song with a guitar.
This is I'm like Patrick. I'm like I have to pick one. Fuck. It's like I feel like The word immersive comes to mind when I hear actually both of these bands. You know what? I'm gonna say Led Zeppelin wins by just a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it looks like we've reached an impasse here. I'm going to also go with Pink Floyd.
Oh no.
Man. Now what do we do?
Well, I guess you're going to have to get out that so-called coin you mentioned for such these scenarios.
Oh, I gotta flip a coin, huh?
All right, so heads, Pink Floyd, tails, Led Zeppelin.
Pink Floyd Division Bell, Taylor.
And I'm going to have immediately jinx Pink Floyd. I'm sorry, Cody.
Alright, here we go, guys. Nut up or shut up. Best 2 out of 3, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Round 1.
Heads, Pink Floyd.
Okay. Round 2.
Let's see how dramatic this gets. Tails! Let's
Oh
Alright,
my
it's gonna come down to
God.
the wire.
Cody's gonna blow up! Here we go.
And before you reveal it, it's going to have landed perfectly on its side, and we are
Da,
screwed.
da, 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 da. Tails.
All right.
Led Zeppelin wins.
And the song continues to remain the same.
Blah blah. Oh.
Oh, look, and then there's another voice crack.
Cody is popped.
This talking
Last.
has got me popping.
All right, the last round for the third tier. We now have Rush and Van Halen.
Oh.
I am curious about
Oh
this.
damn, this is getting pretty fucking.
If it's best drummer,
Yeah, best drum. Oh god.
Which band has the best frontman?
I'm biased. I'm going Rush.
It's a good.
Geddy Lee not
discussion
only
for
has to
sure.
sing
Yeah.
and play bass, and he'll do keyboard parts with his feet.
Geddy Lee
And
or
then also
David Lee
still do actual
Roth.
keyboards as well.
Geddy Lee or
Like
David Lee
Roth
Roth
had the range and the, like he was jumping off things and he was involved, and so was Sammy Hagar as well.
Yeah, they weren't slouches.
That's the thing, though. It's easy when all you have to do is sing. You have more ability and more focus to do other stuff as well to keep people entertained. When you're playing several instruments and singing all at the same time, you don't have, like, you can still have, like, you know, Geddy and Alex would get in a good groove as well, but it's a
Yeah.
different kind of performance.
Okay, good. I'm glad this one isn't one-sided because I was afraid it would be. I'll be honest. I do like David Lee Roth a bit more as a singer, but I really admire Geddy Lee as a musician too. So it's,
I am going to say, though, later era Rush live, like, obviously they have to tune things down because Geddy he was not able to hit the high notes anymore after a certain point in time. Like, he was able to do it on record to a good degree, but, like, the 2 times I saw them, you know, he was doing his best. It's obviously not going to be the same, but it's not, they obviously have aged a lot. You know, David Lee Roth is still able to mostly pull off the stuff in the same key at that, and like the stuff they were doing in the late 2000s, early 2010s.
I've seen Van Halen live. I regret that I didn't see Rush when they were out. I just didn't really know much about them when I was younger. So that was a missed opportunity. But Evan, are you familiar with Van Halen and Rush? Like, do you know much about?
I know more about Rush than I do about Van Halen.
Okay, so I guess you're gonna vote Rush.
Yeah.
It's tough. I'm actually kind of stumped on this one.
This is tough, yeah.
Well, that's the thing, though. David Lee Roth only really had, like, 78 to 84. He only had about 6 albums worth. Geddy was with them the entire time, so you got to hear his voice evolve and, I guess, kind of plateau and then devolve over time. With David Lee Roth, you really only heard him at his peak, and then unless you were paying attention to his solo work, you didn't hear him again until what turned out to be their last record. And he sounded mostly the same, and it seems like things improved, but it also kind of felt like, you know, there's that joke I think Henry Rollins did about how they'll put Slayer in a time machine, freeze them, and then thaw them out when they need to make a new record and say, okay, it's still 1987 again. That's what I kind of feel like David Lee Roth's vocals are.
Henry Rollins
They're still
said that.
mostly there. I think it was Henry Rollins.
That's funny.
I remember
believe it.
reading that in a movie. I have to be actually sure about that.
That's
To
good.
make sure that I don't want to misattribute any quotes here. We're a professional podcast.
You know what? I'm gonna go with Geddy Lee. I'll go with Rush. I never thought I would. I'm not too big on Rush. I know it's like an acquired taste. I still need to like really get into them. I'm sure one day I will. I mean, if you talked to me 10 years ago, I'd be like, I'd be like kind of like the same way I feel about Rush now with Radiohead. Like it took me a while, you know.
Yeah, no, I'm starting to appreciate Rush a lot as a band.
Good, it's working.
He's incepted us.
Maybe I misattributed that Henry Rollins quote about Slayer, but I remember hearing someone on a YouTube video say something like that. Maybe it was a joke, but
all right, you three voted Rush. Even if I say Van Halen,
especially on like stuff like A Farewell to Kings and Hemispheres, which are like two of their most instrumentally demanding stuff. The fact, and even for Caress of Steel, stuff like The Necromancer and The Fountain of Lemneth, like he was able to keep up with a lot of the more technically demanding stuff that Neil would write. Because like it's not easy to sing in the range that he does and have to sing pretty fast.
Guys, we're in the final block. There remains only 4 bands.
Oh,
Oh wow.
Here we go.
This next one is
Yo.
Led Zeppelin versus Slipknot.
New age versus old age. Old age versus
old age versus new with a U age.
I don't want to be. I hate picking through these categories because I feel like I'm gonna pick a shitty one.
Then you just throw it away and pick another one, and then you end up all out of categories, and then we have to improvise.
All right. This one seems a bit more balanced. Which band has sold the most albums?
That kind of sounds like it could be Zeppelin still,
That
but it
sounds
also
like
could be
Zeppelin,
Slipknot
yeah.
because newer stuff. But
I'll look it up.
Yeah, newer. Might as well. I mean, at least it's impartial.
I don't know. A Led Zeppelin Rush final is definitely not going to be impartial. I'll tell you that much.
No. Yeah, what we got left? We got Led Zeppelin, Slipknot, Red Hot Chili Peppers, who I didn't expect to last this long, and then we have Rush.
The Led Zeppelin 4 has 37 million, and then Led Zeppelin 2 has almost 16, so that's about almost 55-ish. And then Led Zeppelin 3 is 13, so almost like 67, 68.
Led Zeppelin wins 300 million worldwide when Slipknot only
million.
Slipknot only has 30 million worldwide.
Ooh, that's like a tenth. Okay.
Okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
That's pretty crushing.
I'm surprised.
I guess they are
But to be honest, that surprised me. I figured Slipknot to be way more than 30 million.
I think part of it is also like it sold a lot in the mid-late 2000s when they've hit the peak in a lot of ways. Like they still sell well now, but you also have to understand that like Zeppelin sold in an era where it was still all about the album. By the mid 2000s, it was all about the digital download.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes
That's
sense.
where
That makes
the sales
sense.
are being factored in, and now it's about the streams are being counted as sales too. So
True.
you know the goalposts keep shifting,
That is true.
It's probably.
but yet the
they're-
song remains the same.
This next one's fucking giving me a big boner, guys. Red Hot Chili Peppers and Rush.
Okay.
Which one has the best bassist?
Oh, Flea versus
Geddy Lee, because have you
Geddy
heard the
Lee.
bass solo on Caravan? Like the fact that
not yet.
yes, Flea slaps the bass, yes, but in the recent stuff, has there been a lot of standout bass? In the beginning, it was definitely standout, but has the later stuff had it stand out all that much?
Not really. It's mostly
A little
guitar
bit on
now.
I'm With You. I haven't heard as much on The Getaway. Like maybe Dark Necessities, but with Return of the Dream Canteen and Unlimited Love, I didn't hear. I heard Black Summer. I didn't get a lot of the flea-ness that I usually do.
Yeah, no, a lot of
And
runs or
there's
riffs.
something about Geddy Lee's Fender Jazz bass that tone, you know when you hear Geddy's bass.
Yeah.
Like he's always doing something. Like he's not playing the runs. He's doing something different each time. And in a lot of times, you know, the bass will like not complement the lead. Like listen to the main riff of YYZ. They're both doing the da 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 da. Like it's like a second guitar in a lot of ways. And I know Flea sometimes does have, you know, moments where it feels like a second guitar, but he's sort of doing his own thing and it happens to match. That's not to put Flea down in any way, but it's a different approach to playing the bass. But I see why you like this category so much.
It's fascinating because they are considered like the best of the best in that category. Both bands are really highly praised for their bass work.
I think Flea's definitely more funky and the energy's there, but Geddy Lee, honestly, like, because just kind of referring to what we just said, like frontman and these guys can like jam out. Like it kind of feels like some Rush songs, like Geddy Lee just gets the singing out of the way early in these songs, just so they can fucking jam out for like 5 to 10 minutes straight.
For them
you know,
to do what they do best. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, even on a song, another Clockwork Angels track like Headlong Flight, when there's that instrumental break around, I think 3.5-ish minutes, like da 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 da. I mean, yeah, it sounds like a Foo Fighters song, but it's still Rush doing that sort of that groove. It works.
I'm gonna go with Rush. I can't believe this. Yeah.
And of course, La Via Strangiato like destroys everything.
I can't believe I'd say this, so I'm gonna go with Rush on this one too.
And the bass line on a track like The Spirit of Radio, it's not crazy like the guitar part is, but it's really like Geddy finds a way to make the bass lines do their own thing. I've been repeating myself, but there's no other way to really describe it like that.
No, he's incredible. That's true. I mean, they're both incredible in their own right, but
Has it come to this?
I think
A so to speak clip show.
The blimp and the Russian.
The Starman.
The Starman.
We didn't submit Bowie for this, but it's a different Starman.
yeah.
The Humanities.
So between these two bands, gentlemen, which band had the biggest legacy?
And no surprise, they're both from the classic rock category.
Oh
Both
man.
classic rock.
The legacy question. God damn it.
Rush.
I can change it if you want, but
No,
I mean,
keep
I
it.
feel
Keep
like
it.
if you changed it, I'd still pick Rush.
No, keep it. This is a fitting one. Oh.
because they're both legendary bands. in
Yeah.
that sense.
Rush. You know why? Because they lasted longer, and Alex and Geddy are still doing. I mean, they're still doing stuff. They were in the South Park concert. They were in the Taylor Hawkins tribute concerts. Even if Rush, as we know it, is forever finished, I don't think Alex and Geddy are quite done playing music. Maybe not necessarily recording stuff a lot of the time, but they're still going. And as long as they're still going, the spirit of Rush will live on.
When you think like iconic band like rock trios, I think Rush is always the top of the chain.
Yeah, you have
Like
you have the Police somewhere in there. You have Cream in there. I'm trying to think of what other trios.
Nirvana.
I guess Fun's not really a trio. Nirvana.
Yep.
You've got a few others, but then Rush is that
Sublime.
upper. I don't see anything topping
Day.
Rush.
No,
Yeah,
no,
Green
they can
Day's
top.
Green Day's in there in the mix.
I gotta.
But
I'm sorry.
Rush is the echelon.
I gotta stick. I mean, I really appreciate the how far Rush has come. It's great. It's just I gotta go with Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin didn't do anything past 1980 until like the 2000s for like a little bit.
When I
2007.
when I hear like rock band, I think of these guys like.
It's true.
Let me
They
put
are
it to you
one of
this
the
way.
most-
How many Led Zeppelin songs are in Rock Band? Donut. How many are in Rock Band? At least a dozen. Probably almost
Josh
almost
is
2 dozen.
really putting his stake in his claim.
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
I don't
they
blame
shouldn't
them.
have made Rock Band Green Day. They should have made Rock Band Led Zeppelin. That would have been the best game of all time.
Yeah.
You'd be
Well,
sitting on your. You'd be.
There's a
sitting
whole
on your
bunch of
ass
Led
for
Zeppelin
10
customs.
minutes
Maybe I'll
straight.
show you one day how to set all that stuff up when you get a 360.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been perfect because like you got singing,
Casual
guitar.
rock band.
Oh God, yeah.
Like, yeah, Led Zeppelin are one of the first really big rock bands, like huge galaxy-conquering rock bands. But Rush are a lot more of a people's band in that they're just friends that happen to be really good at playing music and wrote about stuff that a lot more people can relate to. And it gives the average person hope that, like, yeah, maybe I'm not going to be, like, super famous, but at least I can find common ground with people and we can all enjoy doing something we love together.
Yeah,
And
no, yeah, everything.
Especially with the songwriting.
Everything you're saying is 100% valid, and I respect it. But I gotta let the lead out. My ears are filled with it. I gotta let that lead out. Oh,
Yeah.
Alright.
too much
There's
lead.
too much lead in your Zeppelin. Do we need to get some party rock going?
Oh.
That's
a
Evan,
reference.
What say you? What say you, Evan Mead?
Okay, does Evan Mead wish to concede? So it's between Led Zeppelin and Rush. I'm gonna go with Led Zeppelin, definitely. Because
Oh man.
just a little side note about them. Led Zeppelin and Queen were like the first like two bands that I really got into. Like in terms of like getting into bands, they were one of the first.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin more so. Queen came a little bit more in the teenage years, but for me, I was in elementary school. Josh, you would have been in. We were in 6th grade when I had my Led Zeppelin phase. I don't recall how much I shared with you about it, but I just remember.
Well, I think I have Immigrant Song on one of my burned CDs I made from that time, so it probably
Yeah.
did something.
Makes sense.
You're still wrong, though.
All right, Lyle. It's all come down to you.
Well, what am I gonna do? Agree with the crowd or make this a tie?
You gotta
Think
get.
about this.
I stuck to my guns.
We didn't win
You
the
stick to
base
your
one,
guns.
So
But what if we get a tie? Do we just pick another category?
No, dude.
we
We
gotta
flip a
start the
coin.
tournament all over
No.
again. It's the only way.
you bring
I
out the
gotta go
coin.
to bed.
You got-
I gotta go to the bathroom.
You-
Come on.
Bring out the coin. Bring out the coin if you want to go with Rush.
The coin. The coin.
Okay, I'll go with Rush because I do appreciate them a bit deeper as musicians. But I will say Kashmir is an excellent song.
All right.
But so I need to watch. I need to listen to 2112. That's my biggest.
Tails.
I haven't
Yeah,
listened.
2112, the song, should be enough motivation.
Tails, Led Zeppelin.
Tails, Led Zeppelin, and
It's gonna
Rush
work
has-
again, isn't it? I swear to God,
So
it works again.
different coin. This is a toonie, not a loony. Here we go.
Come on, Polar Bear, don't let me down.
Tails.
All right.
So,
Proceeds to
wait,
immediately let
Best
me down.
best out of three. Best out of three.
So Tails. So Led Zeppelin gets one. Here we go. It all comes down to this, maybe. Tails. Led Zeppelin wins.
Yay!
Yeah.
They can make more blimps. They can never make another Rush.
Oh.
Oh.
Are you referring to that band, that Greta Van Fleet band, those lovely gentlemen?
Oh.
No, I'm referring to the literal
Patriot?
blimp that people associate as a logo.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, if you want to spin it that way too. Well, no, it's like, there's always been bands that sound like Zeppelin. There have. Wolfmother, Greta Van Fleet, whoever comes next. There's always bands that sound like other bands, but, I mean, you could say some other rock bands have progressive elements that kind of sound like Rush, but it's hard to say there will never be another band that fully sounds like Rush. Because maybe there will, maybe there already is.
You are right.
Well, it's hard.
You are definitely right by saying that. I will agree with that.
That
If
being
either-
said, you're all wrong because, you know, you just are.
Hey, don't blame me. Blame the inanimate carbon toonie.
But see, without that inanimate carbon toonie, we don't make it back from space. And
Ah.
Rush actually writes songs that make you feel like you're in space. Actually in space, not just high on something and you're floating in space.
I think someone's mad. But you know what? If either band won, I would have been happy.
yeah, I would have been fine too. It's
no,
fine.
Yeah,
I'm not
same.
mad. They all have more money than I'll ever see, so who's the real loser?
I'm happy that we got to
Oh.
talk about a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, that's
yeah.
the thing. We were trying to, for audience, we were trying to come up with a whole bunch of different bands, and we all suggested a bunch of stuff, but we had to be
There's a
democratic
long
about
list.
it.
Ugh.
And you know, the last year or two, I kind of fell out of getting into brand new music, so maybe they'll be around too, and we'll have more takes that will surprise you.
To be honest, I thought this podcast literally turned out to be December 21st, 2012. I thought it was going to be the end of the world,
Oh, this
a
again.
complete disaster, but then everything was fine. Everything was fine. We're still here. We're still alive.
Now I'm
We
going
are
to
still
serenade everybody
here!
I'm going to serenade everybody with Alan Doyle channeling his inner Michael Stipe. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. That the Great Big Sea cover of "It's the End of the World as We Know It, and I Feel Fine" is great.
Mm.
I should have put
Yeah.
Great Big Sea in here just to troll everybody, or like some like left field choice that no one would have expected.
And
Smash Mouth.
Just-
Eiffel 65.
and just
Oh.
wow, Josh, you are just Josh.
Maroon 5.
You are an absolute fucking wizard when
Crazy
it comes
frog.
to music. I'm not kidding.
Yes.
Yeah. You and Cody, you guys had some really good.
It still would have been funny if
conversations.
we had the entire Big Four of grunge in here because it just would have been. It kind of would have been a little obvious.
I am a little sad that Pearl Jam didn't make the cut, but I mean,
We needed, like,
I'm pretty
Apricot
sad
Jam or
Pearl
Peach
Jam didn't
Jam.
make it. Yeah.
Peach Jam for you, Peach Jam for me. No presidents of the United States of America for anybody. Shame.
I've listened to them the least out of the main
Oh,
four.
if
so.
Primus had made the cut, I feel like that best
Oh.
bass category would have gone completely different.
Oh yes, I wanted Primus to be here too, but they got voted out.
I feel like the moral of the story is watch School of Rock and then get back into Zeppelin from that. Or I guess if you're a new school film person, Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then I guess American Hustle, because that had good times, bad times in the commercial. And now we're just going to make a letterbox list of all the movies that have a Led Zeppelin song in them.
Actually, most of David O. Russell's movies incorporates a Led Zeppelin song.
And then
I know you would.
because they edited that guitar sound out.
I know we don't like this guy, but the guy who made The Big Short and Don't Look Up, in The Big Short, When the Levee Breaks.
Adam McKay.
Adam McKay.
Yeah,
that
Adam
guy.
McKay.
I know, like
I just
last
think
year.
Don't Look Up is This Is the End, but like even more nihilistic and depressing.
Yeah.
I would say Trailer Park Boys has the best use of Rush. That
Yeah,
I've seen.
Bubbles freaking play Closer to the Heart with Alex Lifeson. You can't top
And
that.
they kidnapped him.
But still, like,
Well,
what
and
did Zeppelin? Okay,
Okay.
okay. You know what? I will say this: at least John Paul Jones was able to do more stuff in the late 2000s with them Crooked Vultures. That
Yeah.
record was great.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
if the news is to be
Hell
true,
yeah.
I'm hoping maybe we might get a second them Crooked Vultures record someday.
Oh, I wish. I hope.
Perhaps someday. Because really, outside of that, like Jimmy Page isn't doing anything. Robert Plant's doing a lot of solo work with Alison Krauss, which is probably how most people remembered he was still doing stuff. But like, John Paul Jones has really been one of the only people still doing music stuff. You know?
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. Well, I'm glad
Well-
we were able to do this in a pretty reasonable time.
Since
You
we
know how
since
we
we
have to end this, right?
since we rock and rolled all night, I gotta be up early so I can party every day.
That's not healthy. You might want to see somebody about that. I was gonna say I'm just gonna move something out of the way here. One sec.
No drugs
I feel
included.
like the only proper way to end this is, so to speak, is in the house tonight. Everybody just going to sleep.
That's not a
every-
rock. That's not a rock song.
No, it's party
No, no.
rock. It's similar.
party.
Every-
okay.
Oh, I know. Let's get a party going. Let's get a party going.
No,
Now
no,
it's time
Josh,
to party and
while we're on
party
the
hard.
Josh, while you're on the LMFAO kick, every day I'm podcasting.
Oh wait.
Yeah.
I got dominoes. Dude, I got dominoes. Dominoes. Well, if you made it this far, thank you for listening.
Yes.
Wah
indeed.
wah wah.